Hello, good morning. You are watching your own news channel, AFK Newsroom, and this is your host, Dr. Ejaz Ahmed. Uh, we are going to explore the causes of housing affordability in America in today's program. Uh, and as a number worth sitting to afford the mortgage on a median priced home in America right now. A household needs to earn more than 120,000 dollars a year. Back in early 2020, that number was 66,000, but the home did not get twice as good. The paycheck did not get twice as big. The gap between the two is where today's story lives. We are calling this segment priced out. Over the next 20 minutes, we are going to walk through why this happened and what it looks like in real communities, not just spreadsheets, or who's being hit hardest and where, if anywhere, there are signs of relief. This isn't a coastal story or a red state or blue state story. It's showing up in Boise and Tampa and Jacksonville and Newark, in small towns that used to be the affordable alternative. So let's start with the top line numbers because they set up everything else. Here's where things stand off as of this year, according to the Harvard Joint Center for Housing Studies, the National Association of Home Builders, and the Census Bureau. The average U.S. home value is around $357, up nearly a third in 5 years. Roughly 65% of American households in 39 states plus Washington, D.C., cannot afford a median priced new home at today's mortgage rates, which are holding above 6%. On the rental side, 22.7 million households are what economists call cost burden, spending more than 30% of income on rent. Over 12 million of them are severely burdened, spending more than half. And for the lowest income renters. The maths is starkest of all. The national low income housing condition counts 11 million extremely low income renters competing for just 3.8 million affordable available units. That's a 7.2 million unit gap. Now you will hear what people say. It's a supply problem, and you'll hear people say it's an income problem. And honestly, this year's data suggests it's both tangled together in a way that's hard to unwind. Since 2000, inflation adjusted rents are up more than 20%. Inflation adjusted home prices are up roughly 65%, and wages have not kept pace with either. And here's the twist: economists are watching closely. This year, mortgage rates above 6% have created called a lock-in effect. At about 80% of existing mortgages are at 6% or lower. Many well below that. How homeowners sitting on 3% loans have a little incentive to sell because moving means trading that rate for something in the 6 or 7. So they simply don't move. That freezes inventory at exactly the moment the country needs more of it circulating. The affordability ratio tells us the story. In one line, in 1985, a typical home cost about 3.5 times the median household income. Today, it is closer to 5.8 times, and in the most expensive metro areas, as high as 7 times. That is the widest that gap has been in decades. So, how did we get here? And analysts, and according to my observation, generally points to four forces stacked on top of each other. The first one is the supply shortfall. Estimates of the national housing deficit range from 1.2 million units on the conservative and to over 8 million on the high end, depending on the methodology. And after 2008, home building never fully recovered to pre-recession pace, and land use rulers, zoning restrictions, and permitting delays in many cities have kept new construction well below what population growth requires. Secondly, construction and financing cost. Materials, skilled labor, and land are all more expensive than they were 5 years ago. The National Association of Home Builders reports nearly 300,000 unfilled construction jobs. When it costs more to build, builders build for the top of the market, which brings us to the third force. Uh, on third number, the disappearance of the cheap end of the market. This is um, this is one of the more alarming numbers in this year's Harvard Housing Report. Over the past decade, growth in the rental stock has been almost exclusively higher rent units. Meanwhile, the number of units renting for under 1,000 dollars a month, roughly what a household earning 40,000 could afford, and has declined by 7 million, either lost to demolition or converted upper market. The cheap apartments are not being replaced, they are vanishing. On fourth number, the lock-in effect we just covered, as we discussed a little bit earlier, plus what the San Francisco Federal Reserve's research point to as an unpredictable and unappreciated driver, income growth at the top of the distribution. Their research found that house prices track average income, which is pulled upward by high earners. Even as median income, the paycheck of a typical family falls further and further behind. In other words, prices are being set by the top of the market, while most people's paychecks are stuck closer to the middle. uh, Put all four points together and you will see a housing market that is, in the words of one recent poll seen by 62% of Americans, as a place where buying a home is simply unrealistic. And now let's leave the national numbers behind for a moment and go to where this is actually playing out. um, this is the part of the story that doesn't show up in a spreadsheet. Let's look at four different communities, four different versions of the same crisis. For example, Jacksonville, Florida, the accidental if landlord's effect. um, in Northeast Florida, local housing analysts describe a specific chain reaction. A homeowner wants to sell but is sitting on a 3% mortgage from a few years ago. Selling means trading that rate for something in the six. The math doesn't work, so instead of selling, they rent the house out. One family doing this, this is a footnote. Thousands doing it month after month, and it is a market shift. Jacksonville is now considered overbuilt on multifamily housing relative to demand, even as ownership remains out of reach for many residents. Rents and prices are being are both falling there, but from an artificially inflated peak, and renters are staying renters because buying still doesn't pencil out. Then let's explore New York, Jersey City Metro, the density penalty. On this metro area, analysis shows that a mere $1,000 increase in the median new house price would push more than 4,000 additional households out of affordability range, the largest such impact of any metro in the country, simply because of how many households sit right at that income threshold. This is a region where small price movements have outsized human consequences, disproportionately affecting essential workers, teachers, nurses, employees who can't easily relocate for cheaper housing and keep their jobs. Example is Austin, Texas, a rare case of things getting better. Apartment construction in Austin skyline. Not every story here is bad news, and this one matters because it's a test case for policy. Starting in 2015, Austin pursued a sustained package of zoning reform, rezoning for density, reduced parking requirements, faster permitting, and affordable housing bonds. The results from 2015 to 2024, Austin added 120,000 housing units, a 30% increase in its housing stock, more than three times the national rate. And in large apartments buildings rents actually fell 7% from 2023 to 2024. The stepping big metro rent decline in the country. In order non-luxury buildings specifically, rents dropped even further, around 11%. Austin is now cited by housing economists across the political spectrum as evidence that supply side reform, sustained over years rather than months, can move the needle for renters whose need it most, not just luxury buyers. Fourth example is Athens, Georgia, rebuilding from the ground up. That is mixed income housing development community space. In Athens, the local housing authority partnered with a private developer on the north downtown Athens redevelopment, replacing aging public housing with modern, energy efficient, mixed income units outside and alongside new infrastructure and community space. It's part of a broader trend with construction costs elevated, many housing agencies are shifting focus from building new to preserving and modernizing what already exists. Since renovation is often faster and cheaper than ground up construction, and prevents displacement of the families already living there, the human cost in one statistics, if we can explain here, here's a number that connects all four of these places to the wider country. The census bureau estimates that as of mid 2025, nearly 7 million renters and 4.7 million house owners were behind on their most recent housing payment. And researchers at the Urban Institute and Harvard both point to the same conclusion. Rental affordability isn't a side issue in the homelessness crisis. It is widely considered the single most fundamental driver of it. When a family has no financial cushion, one missed paycheck on one medical bill, one lease non-renewal is often the difference between household and unhoused. So the next is housing. What about housing wages? One more community level number worth putting on screen, that is the national low income housing condition calculates housing wages, what a full-time worker needs to earn to spend no more than 30% of income on rent. Nationally, that's 28.7 dollar an hour for one bedroom, and 33.63 dollars an hour for two bedrooms. The federal minimum wages is 7.25 dollars. That gap between what full-time work pays and what housing costs is, in many ways, the whole story is in two numbers. And who's being hit hardest? It is the young Americans community, though, who are being hit hardest because of these unaffordability of housing there in USA. As young Americans are most publicly vocal about it, and a recent New York Times Sienna poll found that among voters under 30, housing affordability topped every other financial worry combined, including student debt, healthcare, and retirement. Realtor.com's research this year found many younger renters are bypassing New York and Los Angeles altogether for mid-sized metros like Colorado Springs, Denver, and Austin, chasing markets where roughly half of renters can afford fair market rent, compared to about a third in Miami and Latin America. Middle income households are a newer part of this story. More than half of United States householders earn less than $80,000 a year, and nearly two thirds earn less than 106,000, both short of the income needed to comfortably qualify for a median priced new home in 2026. This isn't just a low income crisis anymore. And extremely low income renters remain the most acutely squeezed group of all, with the 7.2 million unit gap we mentioned earlier falling almost entirely on them. Then what's being done about it? what's the priority, and what are the decision makers doing on this story. So is anyone fixing this? A few threads worth watching. At the federal level, Congress has permanently expanded the low income housing tax credit, which has helped finance or preserve more than 4 million affordable units since 1986. Industry analyst estimates the recent expansion could supply roughly 1.2 million additional units over time. This is also bipartisan discussion around the 21st Century Road to Housing Act, which includes a $200 million innovation fund for to reward cities with that reform zoning and demonstrably increase supply. At the local level, we are seeing a genuine shift in the politics of this issue, from New York to Minneapolis, to Sacramento. City leaders across the political spectrum are converging on a similar formula: building more supply and strengthening tenant protections at the same time, not one instead of the other. Smaller scale local programs are also worth watching, like Alexandria, Virginia's no interest down payment assistance program for first time buyers, and Alabama's grant program helping house owners fortify roofs against climate driven damage that's been driving up insurance cost, and other quiet contributor to housing costs nationally. Uh, none of this adds up to a quick fix, but it does suggest the conversation has shifted from whether to build more housing to how, and that's meaningful change from where this debate stood even a few years ago. uh, if we summarize and close this analysis, so where does it leave us? We can say the honest, in a very honest answer, this is a slow moving crisis with no single villain and no single fix. It's zoning laws written decades ago, it's mortgage rates that have frozen the resale market, it's construction costs, it's wages that have not kept pace with a shrinking supply of anything affordable. But the Austin example is worth holding on to, and it suggests that when supply actually increases meaningfully and over a sustained period, rents can come down, and even for the renters who need that relief the most, that doesn't happen by accident, but and it doesn't happen fast. It's the result of years of deliberate policy choices. The question communities across that country are wrestling with right now is whether they are willing to make those same choices before the gap between what people earn and what a home cost gets even wider than it already is. So this was all about for today, and keep watching your channel AFK Newsroom, and I am your host Dr. Ejaz. Uh, Let me go to the next program. Till tomorrow, take care of yourself. Goodbye. Thank you for watching.